भक्तवृंद की जय।
जय।
कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय।
जय।
श्री ब्रजमंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय।
जय। जय।
श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की जय।
जय।
श्री न्यू नीलाचल धाम की जय।
जय।
यमुना माई की जय।
जय।
भक्ति देवी श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी की जय।
जय।
श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय।
जय।
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय।
जय।
निताय गौर हरि प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि
हरि हरि बोल।
All glories to assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to assembled devotees. Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the lotus feet of Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila
Jai.
Prabhupada.
Always got slow treat of Shri Guru and Shri Garanga.
Jai Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Srimate Mahavishnu Swami Namine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Parshati Desatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama. Krishna Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Accept my senses. Before I recite today's verse, I would like to take blessings and permission from the senior devotees assembled here. So I think all of you are senior to me, whether from age or experience. So, Kaivalya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you. Go ahead, Mataji.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Prabhu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. We are going to read from Canto 1, Chapter 11, text 36 today. Uttama bhava pishnama labal guhasa Vridavaloka nihato madano piyasam Sammuhya chapam ajahat pramadottamasta Yasyendriyam vimuthitum kuhakaina sekuhu. Uddama bhava pishnama labal guhasa Vridavaloka nihato madano piyasam Sammuhya chapam ajahat pramadottamasta Yasyendriyam vimathitum kuhakaina sekuhu. Uddama bhava pishnama labal guhasa Vridavaloka nihato madano piyasam Sammuhya chapam ajahat pramadottamasta Yasyendriyam vimuthitam kuhakaina sekuhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Uddama bhava pishunamal valguhas Vridavaloka nihato madano piyasam Sammuhya chapam ajahat pramodottamasta Yashendriyam vimathitum kuharkarna shekuhu.
Hare Krishna. I think it works better with the tune from the Brahma Samhita, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, I thought of singing in that tune, but automatically it went to other tune.
Uddama bhava pashunama laval guhasa Vridavaloka nihato madano piyasam Sammuhya chapam ajahat pramadottamastha yasyendriyam vimatitum kuhakarna sheku.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Uddhama bhavapi sumalaval valguhasa वृद्धावलोकनिहतो मदनोऽपि यस्यं संयुह्य चापमजहत् प्रमदोस्तमास्था यस्येन्द्रियविमुखहितुं कुहकिर्न सेकुः.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Uddhama bhavapi shunama lava guhasa Vidavalokannihato madano piyasam sammuhya chapamajahat pramadottamasta yatsendriyam vimathitum kahakena shokuhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
उत्तामभावपिशुनामलवल्गुहासा व्रीडावलोकनिहतो मदनोऽपि यासां सम्मोह्य चापमजहात् प्रमदोत्तमस्ता यस्येन्द्रियां विमथितुं कुहकैर्न सेकुः.
Hare Krishna. उत्तमभावपिशुनमलफल्गुहासा विदवोलोके निहतो मदनोऽपि यशं सम्मोहचापम् अजहत् प्रमदोत्तमस्ता याशेन्द्रियं विमाहितुं कुहकेन शेकुः.
Anyone else? Okay, let's go forward. Let me see. Sorry, 1 second. This window. Okay, word for word. Uddama, very grave. Vava, expressions. Pisuna, exciting. Amala, spotless. Valguhasa, beautiful smiling. Rida, corner of the eye. Avaloka, looking. Nihataha, conquered. Madanaha, Cupid. Or Amadana, the greatly tolerant Siva. Api, also. Yasam, whose. Sammuhya, being overpowered by. Chapam, bows. Ajahata, gave up. Pramada, woman who maddens. Uttamaha, of high grade. Ta, all. Yasya, whose. Indriyam, senses. Vimathitum, to perturb. Kuhakahi, by magical fits. Na, never. Sekuhu, was able. Translation and purport by Jivan Visesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Although the queen's beautiful smiles and furtive glances were all spotless and exciting, and although they could conquer Cupid himself by making him give up his bow in frustration, and although even the tolerant Siva could fall victim to them, still, despite all their magical fits and attractions, they could not agitate the senses of the Lord. Purport. Purport. The path of salvation or the path going back to Godhead always forbids the association of women, and the complete Sanatana Dharma or Varnashrama Dharma scheme forbids or restricts association with women. How then can one be accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is addicted to more than 16,000 wives? This question may be relevantly raised by inquisitive persons really anxious to know about the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. And to answer such questions, the sages at Naimisaranya have discussed the transcendental character of the Lord in this and in following verses. It is clear herein that the feminine attractive features which can conquer Cupid or even the supermost tolerant Lord Shiva could not conquer the senses of the Lord. Cupid's business is to invoke mundane lust. The whole universe is moving, being agitated by Cupid's arrow. The activities of the world are being carried on by the central attraction of male and female. A male is searching after a mate to his liking, and the female is looking after a suitable male. That is the way of material stimulus. And as soon as a male is combined with a female, the material bondage of the living being is at once tightly interlocked by sex relation. And as a result of this, both the males and females' attraction for sweet home, motherland, bodily offspring, society, and friendship and accumulation of wealth becomes the illusory field of activities. And thus, a false but indefatigable attraction for the temporary material existence, which is full of miseries, is manifest. Those who are, therefore, on the path of salvation for going back home, back to Godhead, are especially advised by all scriptural instruction to become free from such paraphernalia of material attraction. And that is possible only by the association of the devotees of the Lord, who are called the Mahatmas. Cupid throws his arrow upon the living beings to make them mad after the opposite sex, whether the party is actually beautiful or not. Cupid's provocations are going on even among beastly societies, who are all ugly looking in the estimation of the civilized nations. Thus, Cupid's influence is exerted even amongst the ugliest forms, and what to speak of the most perfect beauties. Lord Shiva, who is considered to be most tolerant, was also struck by Cupid's arrow because he also became mad after the Mohini incarnation of the Lord and acknowledged himself to be defeated. Cupid, however, was himself captivated by the grave and exciting dealings of the goddesses of fortune, and he voluntarily gave up his bow and arrow in a spirit of frustration. Such was the beauty and attraction of the queens of Lord Krishna, yet they could not disturb the transcendental senses of the Lord. This is because the Lord is all-perfect, Atmarama, or self-sufficient. He does not require anyone's extraneous help for his personal satisfaction. Therefore, the queens could not satisfy the Lord by their feminine attractiveness, but they satisfied him by their sincere affection and service. Only by unalloyed transcendental loving service could they satisfy the Lord, and the Lord was pleased to treat them as wives in reciprocation. Thus, being satisfied by their unalloyed service only, the Lord reciprocated the service just like a devout husband. Otherwise, he had no business becoming the husband of so many wives. He is the husband of everyone, but to one who accepts him as such, he reciprocates. This unalloyed affection for the Lord is never to be compared to mundane lust. It is purely transcendental. And the grave dealings which the queens displayed in natural feminine ways were also transcendental because the feelings were expressed out of transcendental ecstasy. It is already explained in the previous verse that the Lord appeared like a mundane husband, but factually, his relation with his wives was transcendental, pure, and unconditioned by the modes of material nature. Krishna. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karati Vachalam Pangum Langayatidrim Yatkripa Tamham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. Namo Vishnupade Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Mahavishnu Swamiti Namine Namo Vishnupade Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna. Read the translation again. Although the queen's beautiful smiles and furtive glances were all spotless and exciting, and although they could conquer Cupid himself by making him give up his bow in frustration, and although even the tolerant Shiva could fall victim to them, still, despite all their magical feats and attractions, they could not agitate the senses of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Before I speak my verses, please excuse me for my attire today, since I'm speaking from work. I hope you understand. So today's verse describes the intimate and loving dealings between Lord Krishna and his queens in Dwarka. In the verse itself, it says, Uddama Bhava Vishunamala Balgu Hasa. That means all the queens of Lord Krishna are so great and so beautiful. Like yesterday's verse, like Ramcharan Prabhu was explaining like how they were so great. They were not like ordinary women. And they have such feminine attributes that they can even attract Cupid, like Nihato Madanopi Yasam. And in Sarartha Darshani, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary writes that this verse answers to the question like, how can Krishna be beyond matter when he enjoys sense objects with his senses? And Srila Prabhupada also in this purport, he posed this question. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that this verse is the answer to that question. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada has written, the path of salvation or the path going back to Godhead always forbids the association of women, and the complete Sanatan Dharma or Varnashrama Dharma scheme forbids or restricts association with women. And in this regard, there's a very famous verse like Srila Prabhupada often quotes in his classes, Matra Swasra Duhitrava Navi Viktasano Bhavet Balavan Indriya Gramo Vidamsam Api Karshati. It's in 19th chapter and 17th verse. And the translation to this verse is like, one should not allow oneself to sit alone, allow oneself to sit on the same seat, even with one's own mother, sister, or daughter. So the senses are so strong, and that even though one is very advanced in knowledge, he may be attracted by sex. And I couldn't exactly find where we read, but we read in Lilamrit that once when Pisima, Srila Prabhupada's sister, came to visit Srila Prabhupada, that he made his servant, I believe it's Shrudakirti Prabhu, he made him to stay when she came to visit, like he was Shrudakirti Prabhu. If I'm wrong, Krishnagar Prabhu, if you know, you can correct this one. So he made him to stay there. So he is giving us like example with his behaviors, not just theory, like one should not allow oneself to sit on the same seat with one mother, sister, like that. And we have many examples in like in Srimad Bhagavatam itself, we can find many examples like why we should not do this, why we should follow this principle. And like one of the famous example we can remember is about Lord Brahma in 3rd canto. There is a verse also. Prajapati swam duhitaram trishtva tadrupa dharshitaha rohit bhutam so anvad havad riksha rupi hata trapa. That means at the sight of his own daughter, Brahma was bewildered by her charms and shamelessly ran up to her in the form of a stag when she took the form of a hind. So, and then there is another example also, like can remember Saubhari Muni, who was doing like austerity, submerged in deep water within river Yamuna, and then after seeing the fishes mating with each other, he felt that sexual desire and he emerged from the water and went to King Mandhata and asked one of his daughter to be his wife. And the story is long, like, and then he realized that he's too old, and then with his yogic mystic power, he transforms himself to a very handsome man, and then all of the 50 daughters wanted to marry him, and like this. And so that is why in the purport, again, Srila Prabhupada is writing that the whole universe is moving, being agitated by Cupid's arrow. The activities of the world are being carried on by the central attraction of male and female. A male is searching after a mate to his liking, and the female is looking after a suitable male. That is the way of material stimulus. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5 itself is the creative impetus. The canto itself is named like that. And then in chapter 5, we find that Lord Rishabhdev is giving teachings to his sons, and in that particular, all the teachings he's speaking, Rishabhdev is giving to his son are so nice and very important for us. But the verse I took today is like from 8th verse. It says, the famous one, Pumsa striya mithuni bhavametam tayor mitho hridaya granthim ahu ato griha kshetra sutapta vittai chanasya mohayam aham mamiti. It's 558. And the translation is, the attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the male and female, one becomes attracted to his body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. In this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. So, and we find there are some other examples also in Srimad Bhagavatam or in other sastras like Ramayana. So where one tried to abstain totally from such stimulus, like especially of the opposite sex, but it didn't work. So if any of you can remember that, any example, like there are many, like it's not right or wrong. Is there any example you can remember?
Vishwamitra and Menaka.
That was the example for the first one, like
Or for a family.
yeah. This one I was like Brahmaji, like yeah. But the one I'm speaking is like someone tried. Like, I'll give you a hint, like from birth, but even though it didn't work. No, from Chaitanya Charitamrita there is one. I mean, not from Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita also. I think we can take Bilva Mangal Thakur in this regard, that when he was attracted for Chintamani, the society girl, and then we know the story, like how it goes, like how he went, and then when Chintamani said, like, if you have this kind of, what we call, I don't remember the exact word, but when she says, like, if you have this eagerness for Krishna instead of me, it would have been better, like kind of that thing. And then like strokes in his head, and then he starts for Vrindavan. But again, while going to Vrindavan, he gets attracted to a Brahmana's wife, and he follows her, and then realizing that, and he asks for the hairpin, and he plucks his eyes out, and the rest, and another story. And then another story from Ramayana is the example of Vibhandaka Rishi and the birth of Rishashenga. Like Vibhandaka Rishi, I mean, he did not get kind of agitated, but he was requested by, he was doing austerity, like when he got birth from Prajapati. And then Indra always gets like nervous whenever someone is performing austerity. So he asks, he thinks that maybe the dams from Apsaras cannot do anything. So he goes to Lord Brahma, and he requests to send one of his damsels for his mission. And then he gets Harsha, and then when the story goes, but the main point I'm going to make is like when Vibhandaka Rishi gets this son from a deer. That's why that the son who was born out of deer had horns. That's why his name was Risha Shringa. And then when he said like this, he wanted his son to be out of association of any opposite sex. So he, fosters his son Rishasanga in a way that deep in the forest without any, even it was said like even tigers were not allowed there in his ashram, not even like female birds were flying like that kind. And then he grew up without knowing or without even like knowing anything about women or the women spaces are there. So and then we know like Ramayana how that what was that Romapada, King Romapada, his kingdom was in drought, and then these astrologers Brahmanas, they recommend him to find this Rishyasringa who is very like brahmachari, like he haven't even seen women. If he comes and does that fire sacrifice, and the drought can be solved like this. So so they plan, like they were scared of Vibhandaka Rishi also. If he gets to know that they are tricking his son, that he might get so angry that he can burn whole universe itself. So that's why they made this plan, and then they engaged this what we call like Nagar Badus, a society girl of the kingdom, very beautiful ladies. They turn them into sadhus, like in male form, and they send her. That whole story is there. And then how they tricked the Rishyasringa to come with them, and then when he stepped in the kingdom of Romapada, and then rain started. So that means like even though Rishyasringa didn't have any association of woman or female from his birth, but he got attracted to that disguised lady says. So not only, like it's not that we see and then we get the, even though that thing, that attraction between male and female is innate, it's there. And then back to our purport, like Srila Prabhupada says here, Srila Prabhupada's purport is itself like whole explanation, like each verses, each word on the verses he has explained very nicely in purport. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, those who are therefore on the path of salvation for going back home, back to Godhead, are especially advised by all scriptural instruction to become free from such paraphernalia of material attraction. And that is possible only by the association of the devotees of the Lord, who are called the Mahatmas. Cupid throws his arrow upon the living beings to make them mad after the opposite sex, whether the party is actually beautiful or not. And he says like ugly, even though in ugly beasts or animal kingdom also there is this attraction. So and then so Srila Prabhupada has given a straight answer to the problem, like how can that be solved? It's that is devotee association. But if we start speaking on importance of devotee association, that will be a whole different class that will go on days and days actually. But I was thinking of the verse we recite every Thursday before Srila Prabhupada Leela class, where we are reading, I will build you a temple by Giriraj Swami Maharaj. Anyone remembers the verse? Except Sovaradi Mataji, Vishnugada Prabhu, and anyone remembers the verse? That Thursday we said Mother Vindhyavali. Do you remember the verse we recite before the class? You know it. You are muted. Yeah. Muted.
Prasangam ajaram pasam.
And she's cheating.
No.
So what I
Prasangam majaram pasam atmana kapayo vidu saeva sadhu sukrito mokshadwaram apavritam.
translation?
We know that the association with materialistic thoughts will entangle us, will entangle our spirit soul. But that same association, if we apply it to realized souls, devotees, then it will open the doors of liberation.
Yeah, and the purport is so wonderful. I thought it was like very appropriate for today. I'm going to read the first paragraph of the purport also. So here, Srila Prabhupada writes, here it is clearly stated that attachment for one thing is the cause of bondage in conditioned life. And the same attachment, when applied to something else, opens the door of liberation. Attachment cannot be killed. It has simply to be transferred. Attachment for material things is called material consciousness, and attachment for Krishna or his devotee is called Krishna consciousness. Thank you. Thank you for pulling out that verse. Consciousness is therefore the platform of attachment. It is clearly stated here that when we simply purify the consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness, we attain liberation. Despite the statement then that one should keep up attachment, desirelessness is not possible for a living entity. It's not possible for a living entity. A living entity, by constitution, has the propensity to be attached to something. We see that if someone has no object of attachment, if he has no children, then he transfers his attachment to cats and dogs. And this indicates that the propensity for attachment cannot be stopped. It must be utilized for the best purpose. Our attachment for material things perpetuates our conditional state. The same attachment, when transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, is the source of liberation. Isn't it nice? And then his attachment to cats and dogs. Yeah. And then in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes at kind of end, he says, therefore, the queens could not satisfy the Lord by their feminine attractiveness, but they satisfied him by their sincere affection and service. Only by unalloyed transcendental loving service could they satisfy the Lord, and the Lord was pleased to treat them as wives in reciprocation. And we know the famous verse. So, and then yesterday, Ramcharan Prabhu also said, like, as we desire to serve the Lord, he reciprocates in the same way. And he gave the example of Krishna and Sutapa, like how they desired Krishna to be their son. And then he did, he reciprocated 3 times. Like, I mean, they just desired, and then he did, I mean, Krishna gave it like 3 times bigger or 3 times more than they wanted. So, okay, so I would like to end with the prayer quote by Srila Jiva Goswami. I was trying to find the source of the verse, but I couldn't find it. Like somewhere it is said Vishnu Purana and somewhere it says Padma Purana. And so it is by Jiva Goswami. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 2nd chapter, and the verse number 36 in the purport, at the end of the purport. It says, Yuvatinam yatha yuni yunam cha yatha yuni yunam cha yuvatav yatha mano bhi ramate tadvan mano me ramatam toi. That means as a young girl's mind becomes attached to a young boy, and a young boy's mind becomes attached to a young girl, let my mind be attached to you, O Lord. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So if I have done any mistakes, please correct me. Thank you. I have more additional points. This purport is like vast. Hare Krishna Vishnu Gata Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mother Shyamagori.
Hare Krishna.
So then in this purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about the dangers for association of women. Well, what about if you're a woman? What is that? What about that? Did you take it the same way or what?
I don't think so. It says opposite sex. So
Okay, so for the woman reading it, you'd be talking about the association of a man, right? Okay, okay. Just want to make sure that's clear. So it's not, the whole point is not to put down the women, but to highlight the dangers of the mutual attraction that could take place. So for a woman, a man is the woman.
yeah. Yes. Thank you, Prabhu, for clarifying. Yeah. And yesterday we saw in Ramcharan Prabhu's class also like how you were saying like those women, like those queens were not an ordinary, they were all transcendental. Mitra Vindamati, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you for giving class this morning. I don't know. There's so many things that are going on these days. We can actually apply this information to male, male, and female, female, and so forth and so on. But we do have this wonderful information knowledge, right? Which, in the best sense, should go beyond what country we live in, because this is spiritual knowledge, not relegated to a person's body or geographic location, as it's said in Shastra many, many times. So it goes beyond all cultures as well. But there are inherent benefits to actually understanding and being able to, at the base level, follow this information. Divisions of families happen because of these kind of instances. So in spiritual environments, etiquette is absolutely necessary. And one aspect is to, people who are married shouldn't do service with other people, whether they're married or not, without the information given or approval of their spouses. This protects community and family. And we have it right here in writing in Srila Prabhupada's words. And the reasons why are, we're not perfect, but there's a protection that happens because of that. And it's for the benefit of everyone. So we don't want to get into, well, in America, it's this way and nobody cares. Or in India, we have a very strict rule about it, but, we're trying to shift it to flow with the millennial mood. We have to understand that either we're trying effectively to believe and have faith in Shastra, or we're going to make up our own, our own things. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mother Shyamagori. Very nicely explained. To me, the line that stands out in the purport is how they could not attract him by their feminine attractiveness, but by their sincere devotion and sincere effort. Both of them, devotion and effort. And that he's the husband of all. And everybody's duty is to try to go towards him and not be distracted. I thought that line at the very end is worth meditating on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or reflections? Some of these classes, especially the last few, I think it's something for us to think about. Some clarification might be needed, but mostly it is for us to look inward and see how much of it we can sincerely try to Vishnugada Prabhu has his hand up again.
Hare Krishna. So just a couple comments. One is that, this exhibition that Lord Krishna wasn't attracted, even though his wives were incredibly gorgeous and attractive to everybody else. Still, he wasn't. That's one of his opulences
Yeah.
of Bhagavan. So we see, Aishvaryasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashashashya Jnanavairagyaschapi. So his opulence of renunciation is displayed there. So that's nice. And then there's there was a discussion or debate during the Rajasuya sacrifice, because Lord Krishna was nominated as the most worshipable, most most important personality there. Even though there were people like Vyasadeva and others who were, at least from a certain point of view, they were considered older, senior, or the compiler of the Vedas, stuff like that. So in the Mahabharata, Bhishma Dev speaks very strongly about Krishna as being the supreme personality of Godhead to counter Shishupal. Whereas in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's more emphasis on, I think it's Sahadev speaking. But so both of them spoke. But one of the things that Bhishma Dev said, he said, people tell me I'm a brahmachari, but if I were dancing with young girls in the middle of the night, I'd be finished. But Krishna, he was completely dhira, even though in the middle of the night he was dancing in that way in the rasa dance. So a similar point made there by Bhishma Dev when he was defending Krishna's position.
Thank you, Prabhu. Mother Mitravinda, do you have anything to add? Your hand is up still. Okay.
I guess if there are no more questions or comments, we can end the class. Acharya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Acharya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mata, thanks for the awesome class. I just want a little thing to add, that not only is Krishna's pastimes with his queens and with the gopis transcendental and have nothing to do with material sex, but at the end of the rasa dance in the Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami says that just by hearing about these pastimes of Krishna with the gopis, by hearing that, your material sex life will be destroyed. I think he uses the term bhava roga, material disease of lust will be destroyed by hearing about it. So that's further proof that it's not material lust. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. So then we'll meet again tomorrow morning at 7:50 for Chaitanya Charitamrita. Hare Krishna.
Kalpataruvascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji.
Thank you.